Welcome back to Stu Man Rides. We're going to do our second video in the series on braking today. And we're going to talk about what I would call normal braking. So we'll go through what that is, or what it is to me anyway, my definition of it. And then we'll take a look at the types of corners where you would want to use normal braking. We're going to do another video on trail braking a little bit later on. But for this one, we're just going to focus on normal braking. So what is it? You may have gone to a beginner's rider school a long time ago and you learned that you're supposed to do all your braking while the motorcycle's straight up and down, and then you release the brake lever just before you turn in. Then you press the motorcycle, lean it into the corner, and throttle through the corner and throttle out. So that's what a lot of people think of as normal braking. And while that might be normal for street riding, I'm a bit more focused on performance riding and how you would ride a motorcycle, twisty canyon roads, on the track, that sort of thing. And on the track, twisty canyon road, I would never brake like that, right? Just not something I would do. And I wanted to kind of give you an explanation of why. As everybody knows, if you're going in a straight line and you grab the front brake lever, you're going to compress the front suspension. So it doesn't take much for me you can see the forks on the bike compress just by putting a little bit of force into it when I'm on the brake. So that's fine. And as you release the brake lever, if I put some pressure on it and then release the brake lever, you can see the forks extend again, right? So if you're going into a corner and you're grabbing the brake lever, compressing those forks, releasing the brake lever, the front end rebounds, comes back up. When you turn the motorcycle into the corner, the forks will actually compress again, even if you're not on the brakes. So if you think about it, you're going into a corner, even if you're not using the brakes at all. When you lean the motorcycle over and turn it into the corner, front wheel is trying to change direction, right? So it's trying to steer the motorcycle into the corner. The momentum of the bike is trying to go straight, right? So you're trying to change that. Whenever you change that, it's going to put some friction and some load on that front tire. So even if you weren't to touch the brakes at all, when you turn the motorcycle in, it's going to put load and friction on that front tire, and the front suspension is going to compress. Okay, so to demonstrate this, I mounted up a camera on the fork of my supermoto bike so you could see the front suspension moving. And then I went out onto Adam's kart track and did a few laps without touching the brakes. So this portion of the video, I'm actually not using the brakes at all. And you'll see each time I turn the motorcycle into a corner, you'll see the front suspension compress, even though I'm not using the brakes. I'm just trying to show the additional load that you put on the front suspension, even when you're not using the brakes. It's especially noticeable in this S section that leads on to the back straight. You'll see the front suspension moving up and down as I turn the bike from left to right and from right to left. Right? So you think about what happens when you're doing what we commonly refer to as braking, right? So the beginner style braking in a straight line. You're coming up to the corner, you brake, you compress the suspension, you get just before the corner, you get your braking done, you release the suspension, or release the brakes and release the suspension comes back up. And then when you turn the motorcycle, you compress the suspension again. So what you get is this bobbing motion as you go into the corner. It compresses, it releases, it compresses again, and the bike feels unsettled when you go to turn it in, right? So that's not what I would never do that on a racetrack, right? That's not what I would consider normal braking. So with normal braking, what we're trying to do is trying to balance that load on the front tire as we go into the corner. So if you release the brake as you turn the motorcycle into the corner, you can replace the braking load with the cornering load and keep the front suspension settled and compressed. So The idea, or for what I would consider normal braking, is as I approach the corner, before the corner, I'm doing most of my hard braking while the bike is straight up and down, right? So grabbing the brakes really hard at some point before the corner, getting most of my speed scrubbed off before the corner. But as I approach where I want to actually turn the motorcycle in, when I turn the motorcycle in, I'm going to release the brake lever at the same rate that I turn the motorcycle in. So if I'm turning the motorcycle really quick, I'm going to come out of the brake at that same rate. If I'm turning the motorcycle maybe a little bit slower for some reason, I'm going to release the brake lever at the same rate. But the idea is when I get to the lean angle that I need for that corner, the brake lever's off, right? And I can come right back into the throttle as quickly as possible, right? So my goal for this type of braking is I'm trying to get my braking done, keep the suspension settled as I enter the corner, and then be able to come right back to the throttle as quickly as I can so that I can accelerate through the middle of the corner and off the corner, right? Start building speed earlier. So normal braking to me is just that. I brake, most of my braking or most of my really hard braking is done while the bike is pretty much vertical. I get that hard braking done before I get to where I actually want to turn. When I get to where I want to turn, I'm still on the brakes, and then I release the brake lever as I turn the motorcycle into the corner so that when I hit the lean angle or when I get the bike turned, I'm completely off the brakes at the point that I've reached my maximum lean angle. So that's normal braking for me. So I'm going to contrast that with trail braking in my next video, and we'll talk more about trail braking and its benefits and that sort of thing. But in this video, we're really going to focus on this normal braking, why you would want to use that, what the benefits are, and what types of corners are best suited for normal braking. So I'm going to run through the track map, and we're going to talk about the corners where you would use normal braking. Right, so those corners where you're going to turn the bike and release the brake lever, get on the gas early, try to drive off the corner, build speed earlier in the corner. So these are the corners where I think normal braking would probably work best. All right, so let's quickly talk about the benefits and the detriments of what we're calling normal braking. So with normal braking, you're trying to release the brake lever at the same rate that you turn the motorcycle. You're off the brakes by the time you get the bike turned. So the big benefit of this is you're able to get back to the gas as soon as possible, right? You can't come back into the gas while you're still on the brakes. So if you're doing normal braking and you're releasing that brake lever the moment that you turn the motorcycle, then the moment that brake lever comes off, you can come right back into the throttle, which means that you can start building speed earlier in the corner. The benefit here, obviously, is that if you can build speed earlier in the corner, you're going to end up coming off of that corner faster. So this is a huge benefit in any corner that's followed by a straight or a faster section of track. The downside to normal braking is that you're setting your entry speed or you're setting your slowest point in the corner right where you turn the motorcycle. So basically right at the beginning of the corner is going to be your slowest point in that corner. So you can't necessarily carry a ton of speed into the corner. You're setting that slow point very early in the corner. So those are the upsides and the downsides of normal braking. So let's talk a little bit about which corners are best suited for normal braking. So normal braking is best suited for corners that are typically less than 180 degrees. Corners that are a little bit tighter, corners that are followed by a straight or a faster section of track, corners where the entry to the corner is a little bit tighter as opposed to being more open. So those are the types of corners that are best suited for normal braking. All right, so we're going to go in the clockwise direction. That's the direction that I have video in, so we're going to look at some video while we talk about this stuff. And we'll start front straightaway, right? So going through turn 1 and 2. Turn 2, probably normal braking, right? Turn 1, it is a corner, there is a bit of a left there, you're going to trail brake all the way through that. Turn 2, you're probably going to want to release the brake and turn the bike at the same rate, get off the brake early,
so that you can drive onto this little short straight. Turn 3, absolutely normal braking. You're going to turn it in quick. You're going to release the brake at the same rate that you turn the bike. You're going to get on the gas early, probably well before the apex here, and you're going to try and drive onto that short straight that leads into turn 4.
So let's take a look at normal braking at Chuckwalla turns 2 and 3. So on the brakes through turn 1, release the brake quickly, right back into the throttle. That's turn 2. Again, release the brake early, right back into the throttle for turn 3. So let's take a look at it in slow motion so you can get a better perspective of what's going on. So down the front straight again, grab the brakes, trail braking all the way through turn 1, my downshifts. And you'll notice the moment I get the bike turned to the left, off the brake and right back into the throttle, even before the apex of turn 2. On the throttle hard, in between the corners, a little bit of brake for turn 3. Again, the moment I get my lean angle, right off the brakes, right back into the gas, even before the apex of the corner. Driving off the corner onto the straight between turns 3 and 4.
Turn 4, trail braking. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Turn 5, not a whole lot of braking there. If you are braking, it's probably going to be normal. You're going to get off the brakes early, drive onto the short straight. Not really much braking, trail braking through 6, we'll talk about that later. Not really a whole lot of braking for 7. Trail braking through 8, right? You come up over the top of a hill, you crest a corner, you come down into what is about a 90-degree corner, maybe just slightly more than 90 degrees. You're gonna flick the bike really quickly and really hard to the right-hand side. You're gonna try and get back into the gas really early so that you can drive onto this really long straightaway. Down into turn 11, trail braking maybe slightly. We'll take a look at the video on that one. Not really much braking for 12. Not really a whole lot of braking for turn 13. Going into 14, maybe very slight trail braking or normal braking. It's a pretty straightforward corner. The entry is kind of gradual, but you do want to drive onto this little short straight. So pretty much normal braking, maybe just a slight trail brake there. Turn 15, absolutely normal braking, right? You're gonna get off the brakes really early. You're gonna get back on the gas really early, try and drive past the apex onto this short straight, and then you're gonna trail brake down into turn 16.
So let's take a look at turns 14 and 15 on the bike in real time. Normal braking for both of these corners. So here we come out of the bowl heading into turn 14. On the brakes, get the bike turned. The moment I hit my lean angle, off the brakes, into the gas. Again, turn 15, on the brakes, hit my lean angle, off the brakes, into the gas, well before the apex of the corner, driving onto the straightaway that follows. So here we'll take a look at it in slow motion so you can get a little bit clearer view. Coming through the bowl, leaned over and onto the short straight, heading into turn 14. You'll see as I get the bike upright, reach out, squeeze the brake. The moment the bike gets to the lean angle I need, which is right about now, the hand comes off the brake into the throttle before the apex of the corner. Again, turn 15, grab the brake. The moment I hit the lean angle I want, now, off the brakes, right back into the gas, driving through the apex, onto the exit of the corner and onto the short straight. So that's turns 14 and 15 at Chuckwalla. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for this video. Just to quickly summarize, talking about what corners normal braking is going to work for. Pretty much any corner that's followed by a straightaway that you want to drive off of the corner onto a faster section of track. Pretty much any corner that has a fairly tight entry to it, something that's not open. Corners that are less than 180 degrees. And corners that are kind of separated from another corner, right? Typically, if two corners are linked together, you might trail brake the first corner. But if the corner is kind of separate, kind of all on its own, then it's probably a good candidate for braking. But the rule of thumb is any corner that you really want to drive off of that corner, you really want to accelerate early, that's a good candidate for normal braking, because normal braking allows you to get off the brakes early in the corner, get on the gas early in the corner, and build speed all the way through. So I hope that helps. I hope you can apply this to corners at whatever track you ride. If you like the video, throw up a like, and if you want to see future videos, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing another video on trail braking just as quickly as I can put it together. And yeah, so I guess that's about it. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions or you would like to comment on what we've talked about in the video, please feel free to do so, and I'll respond to comments as quickly as I can. All right, thanks a lot for watching Stu Man Rides.